we will inform you about what the media is hiding about the personality of Turkish President Tayyip Recep Erdogan. Part 1. Mr. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is a Turkish politician serving as the 12th and current president of Turkey since 2014. He previously served as Prime Minister of Turkey from 2003 to 2014 and as Mayor of Istanbul from 1994 to 1998. He founded the Justice and Development Party in 2001, leading it to election victories in 2002, 2007, and 2011 general elections before being required to stand down upon his election as president in 2014. He later returned to the AKP leadership in 2017 following the constitutional referendum that year. Coming from an Islamist political background and self-describing as a conservative Democrat, he has promoted socially conservative and populist policies during his administration. Following the 1994 local elections, Erdogan was elected mayor of Istanbul as the candidate of the Islamist Welfare Party. He was later stripped of his position, banned from political office, and imprisoned for 4 months for inciting religious hatred due to his recitation of a poem by Ziya Gökalp. Erdogan subsequently abandoned openly Islamist politics, establishing the moderate conservative AKP in 2001, which he went on to lead to a landslide victory in 2002. With Erdogan still technically prohibited from holding office, the AKP's co-founder, Abdullah Gül, instead became prime minister and later annulled Erdogan's political ban. After winning a by-election in Siirt in 2003, Erdogan replaced Gül as prime minister, with Gül instead becoming the AKP's candidate for the presidency. Erdogan led the AKP to 2 more election victories in 2007 and 2011. Reforms made in the early years of Erdogan's tenure as prime minister granted Turkey the start of EU membership negotiations. Furthermore, Turkey experienced an economic recovery from the economic crisis of 2001 and saw investments in infrastructure including roads, airports, and a high-speed train network. He also won 2 successful constitutional referendums in 2007 and 2010. However, his government remained controversial for its close links with Fethullah Gülen and his Gülen movement, with whom the AKP was accused of orchestrating purges against secular bureaucrats and military officers through the Balyaz and Ergenekon trials. In late 2012, his government began peace negotiations with the Kurdistan Workers' Party to end the Kurdish-Turkish conflict. The ceasefire broke down in 2015, leading to a renewed escalation in conflict. Erdogan's foreign policy, described as neo-Ottoman and imperialist, has led to the Turkish involvement in the Syrian civil war, with its focus on preventing the Syrian Democratic Forces from gaining ground on the Syria-Turkey border during the Syrian civil war. In the more recent years of Erdogan's rule, Turkey has experienced democratic backsliding and corruption. Starting with the anti-government protests in 2013, his government imposed growing censorship on the press and social media, temporarily restricting access to sites such as YouTube, Twitter, and Wikipedia. This stalled negotiations related to Turkey's EU membership. The EU's own $100 billion corruption scandal in 2013 led to the arrests of Erdogan's close allies and incriminated Erdogan. After 11 years as head of government, Erdogan decided to run for president in 2014. At the time, the presidency was a somewhat ceremonial function. Following the 2014 elections, Erdogan became the first popularly elected president of Turkey. The souring in relations with Gülen continued, as the government proceeded to purge his supporters from judicial, bureaucratic, and military positions. A failed military coup d'etat attempt in July 2016 resulted in further purges and a state of emergency that lasted until 2018. The government claimed that the coup leaders were linked to Gülen, but he has denied any role in it. Erdogan's rule has been marked with increasing authoritarianism, expansionism, censorship, and banning of parties or dissent. Erdogan supported the 2017 referendum, which changed Turkey's parliamentary system into a presidential system, thus setting for the first time in Turkish history a term limit for the head of government. This new system of government formally came into place after the 2018 general election, where Erdogan became an executive president. His party, however, lost the majority in the parliament and is currently in a coalition with the Turkish nationalist MHP. Erdogan has since been tackling, but also accused of contributing to, the Turkish currency and debt crisis of 2018, which has caused a significant decline in his popularity, and is widely believed to have contributed to the results of the 2019 local elections, in which his party lost power in large cities such as Ankara and Istanbul to opposition parties for the first time in 15 years. According to historian M. Hakan Yavuz, Erdogan was born in Ganisu, Rize, and later his family moved to Kasımpaşa, a poor neighborhood of Istanbul. Erdogan's family is originally from Ajara, a region in Georgia. Although Erdogan was reported to have said in 2003 that he was of Georgian origin and that his origins were in Batumi, he later denied this. His parents were Ahmet Erdogan and Tenzil Erdogan. Erdogan spent his early childhood in Rize, where his father was a captain in the Turkish Coast Guard. His summer holidays were mostly spent in Giresun, Rize, where his family originates. Throughout his life he often returned to this spiritual home, and in 2015 he opened a vast mosque on a mountaintop near this village. The family returned to Istanbul when Erdogan was 13 years old. As a teenager, Erdogan's father provided him with a weekly allowance of 2.5 Turkish lira, less than $1. With it, Erdogan bought postcards and resold them on the street. He sold bottles of water to drivers stuck in traffic. Erdogan also worked as a street vendor selling simit, wearing a white gown and selling the simit from a red three-wheel cart with the rolls stacked behind glass. In his youth, Erdogan played semi-professional football at a local club. Fenerbahce wanted him to transfer to the club, but his father prevented it. The stadium of the local football club in the district where he grew up, Kasımpaşa SK, is named after him. Erdogan is a member of the community of Iskenderpaşa, a Turkish sophistic community of Nakşibendi Tarika. Erdogan graduated from Kasımpaşa PL Primary School in 1965 and Imam Hatip School, a religious vocational high school, in 1973. The same educational path was followed by other co-founders of the AKP party. 1/4 of the curriculum of Imam Hatip schools involves study of the Quran, the life of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, and the Arabic language. Erdogan studied the Quran at an Imam Hatip, where his classmates began calling him Hoca. Erdogan attended a meeting of the nationalist student group National Turkish Student Union, who sought to raise a conservative cohort of young people to counter the rising movement of leftists in Turkey. Within the group, Erdogan was distinguished by his oratorical skills, developing a penchant for public speaking and excelling in front of an audience. He won first place in a poetry reading competition organized by the community of Turkish technical painters and began preparing for speeches through reading and research. Erdogan would later comment on these competitions as enhancing our courage to speak in front of the masses. Erdogan wanted to pursue advanced studies at Mekteb-i Mulki-i, but Mulki-i accepted only students with regular high school diplomas and not Imam Hatip graduates. Mulki-i was known for its political science department, which trained many statesmen and politicians in Turkey. Erdogan was then admitted to Eyüp High School, a regular state school, and eventually received his high school diploma from Eyüp. According to his official biography, he subsequently studied business administration at the Aksaray School of Economics and Commercial Sciences, now known as Marmara University's Faculty of Economics and Administrative Sciences. According to the Heinrich Ball Foundation and the website of the presidency, he shall have graduated in 1981, but the Marmara University was established only in 1982. Several sources dispute that he graduated, since a graduation certificate has never been presented. Erdogan married Emine Gulbaran B. 1955, served on the 4th of July 1978. They have two sons, Ahmet Burak B. 1979 and Necmettin Bilal B. 1981, and two daughters, Esra B. 1983 and Sumaya B. 1985. His father, Ahmet Erdogan, died in 1988 and his mother, Tenzil Erdogan, died in 2011 at the age of 87. Erdogan has a brother, Mustafa B. 1958, and a sister, Vesil B. 1965. From his father's first marriage to Havili Erdogan D. 1980, he had two half-brothers, Mehmet and Hassan. In 1976, Erdogan engaged in politics by joining the National Turkish Student Union, an anti-communist action group. In the same year, he became the head of the Beyoğlu youth branch of the Islamist National Salvation Party and was later promoted to chair of the Istanbul youth branch of the party. Holding this position until 1980, he served as consultant and senior executive in the private sector during the era following the 1980 military coup when political parties were closed down. In 1983, Erdogan followed most of Necmettin Erbakan's followers into the Islamist Welfare Party. He became the party's Beyoğlu district chair in 1984, and in 1985 he became the chair of the Istanbul city branch. Erdogan entered the parliamentary by-elections of 1986 as a 6th district candidate of Istanbul, but gained no seat as his party ended as the 5th largest party in the by-elections. 3 years later, Erdogan ran for mayor of Beyoğlu district. He finished second in the election with 22.8% of the votes. Erdogan was elected to parliament in 1991, but was barred from taking his seat due to preferential voting. Soon, we will publish Part 2